Bro, so I had this crazy moment of serendipity the other night. Caroline and Athena and I were chilling, hanging out, and I had my laptop up and was playing Nifty Island. And I haven't really built out my island very much. I've just been exploring, playing games, trying to play games on the computer because I've just my whole life played Xbox and PS2. And, I was being a baby using an Xbox controller to be able to play this. And all of a sudden, somebody's on my island, and it was you. And you're like, yo, are you like Sky? I'm like, yo, I'm here. And it was so cool to have this moment of serendipity, of randomness, to have a homie be on my island accidentally. It was fucking awesome to feel.
Yes.
And Caroline got excited about it too.
Yes.
And then it gets cooler because then you're like, oh, do you need help building out the island? And all of a sudden you start building shit on my island, and then more people start joining. And then there's like 5 or 6 people like building shit on my island. And like one of my goals for like the first week of the new year was like to build an Opepin island. And then it just happened immediately because like this crew of creators just came in and built it for me. And I'm just trying to figure out how to go from Xbox controller to chat. And in the meanwhile, like all these people are building shit on my little island.
That was fun. Yeah, Zach and I make a point of coming through all the new player islands and going and kind of seeing who people are, and running into you was pretty hilarious. And yeah, the fun thing too is you end up in Nifty with things in your inventory you don't even know you have. So it's for you had Opepin and NFTs, and as a result, you had all these like build assets themed around Opepin that we had gathered from the community over time. So that was fun. And to me, what we're trying to really capture with islands are the feeling of kind of having a digital playground where you can make up the games, build the environment, do it all on the fly in a really spontaneous way. You're playing in one corner of the playground, and 2 people you happen to know come over to your corner and help you do something. So yeah, the serendipity is a beautiful thing. It was fun.
And I think that's one of the huge promises of what like a quote unquote metaverse was supposed to be, was an opportunity for that to happen. And I've played, Rec Room and a bunch of other games, and not to shit on Sean or anything, but I'd never had that happen where it wasn't planned.
Right.
And maybe it's because, there's thousands of people using it, tens of thousands of people using it, but it's still relatively small, that it was cool that it was like, oh shit, like I just ran into somebody in my neighborhood, because my island is kind of like my neighborhood,
Yeah. I think there are a few things that go into that. It's the ease of creating, having it be that it's something you can do really on the fly with no technical skills is key. And then where crypto comes in that's pretty interesting is these markers you have where you can see that a user is a Pudgy Penguin holder or an Opepin enthusiast, and that's kind of like a lightning rod that attracts other people to come in. And so you could, as a player in Nifty, see, oh, there's a new Opepin user. Okay, great. His name's Sky, hop onto his island, and immediately you also have building blocks that are tied to that. So yeah, it's like the ease of doing it, and then having these kind of lightning rods that attract people of similar affinities is really fun. And I think with where Nifty's at right now, it's still in that early kind of enthusiast crowd. It's like the kind of golden age of it in a way, where people look back on these message boards and forums for the kind of early genuine days of it. And Nifty's in that period, which is what makes it so fun too, because everyone who's there is a diehard who is excited to see it build out, who wants a new player to have a great experience. So yeah, it's fun.
Yeah, it's exciting, man. Before we get too deep into it, who the fuck are you, bro?
Yeah, I'm Charles. I've been an entrepreneur in the crypto space for some time. And yeah, I worked on all kinds of stuff in crypto, basically become pretty obsessed with the deep communities that spawn around crypto. When people own things on the internet together, they start using the internet in a different way. They create podcasts about obscure DeFi protocols. They issue merch shops around, NFT projects that most of the world's never heard of. They start kind of behaving like a tribe online. And that fascinates me. And basically since about 2017, 18, I've been deeply involved in that kind of area of these kind of deep online tribes that form around crypto. And I've been working on Nifty for a few years. And, I do a few things on the side. I like to write, like to read. From the UK originally, grew up in the US, but on a whole, 99% of my time is, on Nifty and on trying to figure out where the great kind of consumer unlock is for crypto.
Yeah, man, it's absolutely fantastic to see what you've built. The first time you're on the podcast, it was like I think you just did your first round of funding.
Yeah.
You had a trailer, you had the swords, and you had the pistols, and you had islands. I think the future was bright, and NFT market crash, crypto market crash, and you just spent the last 3 years building a game that's real that people can play. And you just launched your token. And it's funny because, you know, you've just grinded your ass off for like the last 3 to 4 years to build this thing. And now the token's out there. And at some level, it feels like now it's done, but really like now you've started.
Yes.
It is like now is the beginning.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. No, that's right. It was definitely the kind of chewing glass staring into the void period, you know, during that kind of crypto winter. And now I think we're in a place where the game fundamentally works. It is not feature complete, but it has a lot of the core systems in place. You can make a fun island. You can invite people to it. You can play games on it, customize those games. There's hundreds of communities that have a presence in the game. And then with the token, you've got this avenue for a lot more people getting involved. So, you know, you have the ability for, you know, it's, you know, now it's thousands, but hopefully one day hundreds of thousands of people who like hold that token, who engage and contribute with the game world. So the chance to scale the community up around it is there now, and the product is in a place where we can start to grow it. So yeah, it's been a battle, but it's been really fun, and this is definitely kind of a new beginning for it. That's how I feel about it. This is kind of the beginning of the real contest to make it happen. Yeah.
There's a quote I say in this podcast way too often. People are pretty over it, I'm sure. If,
okay, I haven't heard it, so
okay. So it's like beyond mountains there are more mountains. Yeah, it's like a Haitian proverb.
Yeah,
it's like there really is no end.
Yeah,
ideally, because then you're dead.
100%.
But I'm glad you overcame this mountain, and the launch was pretty awesome to be a part of. It was stressful, you know, because you had the Pingu launch happening. We had been texting like maybe 2 weeks before, and I was like, dude, like I hope that the Pingu doesn't launch the same day. And like, you're like, I think we'll get it out before. And then they announced the date, and I'm like, fuck. Like, but I actually think it worked in your benefit in a lot of ways, because I think there's so many people with like massive amount of bots who are out here trying to like pump and run right off the hype at the beginning. And I felt like your guys' launch was super smooth. And one thing that's cool about the community of people that are actually in it was, you know, you had like I wouldn't say it was your fault of a hiccup, but there was something happened at the beginning of launch and of the token. And I'm sitting there on the live stream of these two dudes who are just holders and huge fans. I don't even remember their names, like, but they're both like cats, I think.
Yeah, probably Jay and the Mars Cat.
One's who's from like the UK. They're like rapping sometimes and stuff.
Cube, okay.
Yeah, and it was like fun to listen to, and it was super fun. Everybody's like hyping. And I was like listening, waiting for, you know, the official link to come out. Then it like, there was something that got tweeted out that was the link. Then that goes away, and then another one comes out. And I was like, oh, I click on it. And then everybody in the stream's like, don't click on it, don't click on it. Like Charlie just said in Discord. And it was really cool that like I got saved because of people within the community talking about it. Like there were enough people focusing, excited, learning about it, that it was like protecting each other. And but yeah, how did that fucking feel? Because I imagine dropping a token is probably, if you care, like if you're not just a shill like bitch, dropping a token on something you spent the last 3 years of your life, you know, dozens of employees, tons of investor capital to build. And now this is a moment for, you know, kind of proof to see what happens. And you can get fucked in so many ways.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Like legally, financially, and you have to like just make sure it goes smoothly. Like just walk us back to like what it was like. And then when that happens, and then how you fix it.
Yeah. I think the most important bit of context there is it's this sprint to get it out, where we'd been trying to launch it for months and just looking kind of for the right moment, trying to figure out the right way to deliver it. And we had zeroed in on this December 17th date. For the past 2-3 weeks, it had been this intense push to try to maximize the launch, make sure that it's as successful as possible. And for the past maybe 5 or 6 nights, like I barely slept. I'm, you know, working during the day, maybe taking a quick nap. And then I'm online with a lot of people in East Asia that tend to operate a bunch of the big crypto exchanges. And so I'm kind of not really sleeping at all. And so when it came to that morning of December 17th, I had been up, you know, pretty much most of the preceding night and had grinded hard enough that I had this sort of cautious optimism where I thought, okay, we've actually checked all the boxes here. I put in such an inordinate amount of time making sure this is a success. And I kind of come into it thinking like, okay, there's no issue here. Like we are so ready. And that hiccup at the beginning with the security issue was really unpleasant. I mean, the number one thing you feel at that moment is you're just worried that this community of people have contributed so much to the game, and who I know really well because I'm essentially mainlining the internet with this project, right? Yeah. It's like I have tons of DMs, like hundreds and hundreds of DMs with people who contribute to the game world and who I talk to all the time. I know them pretty well. And so the worst thought is that someone there is going to be negatively affected. And then the other thought is, oh boy, are we like, you know, in trouble here? Like, is this going to be going to jeopardize what we've worked on? Thankfully, we're obsessive enough that I think that was up for like 2 minutes or something like that, maybe a minute and a half. There were attempts to repost it, but we got control of it pretty quick. And we were just kind of dialed in, There was definitely an oh shit moment, but pretty much immediately we were just dialed in. Let's resolve it. And thankfully, it was kind of a pretty isolated incident. And then we kind of moved on. So yeah, no fun though. It's there's so many boxes to tick with getting that out there. And then something comes out of nowhere and sort of blindsides you.
And it's something you wouldn't expect because it's not related to your program, right? It's just your Twitter got hacked.
Oh, yeah, exactly. It's always like we have extensive security procedures in place on all of our core infrastructure, and including the Twitter and other channels. But the depth, like we've gone to pretty significant lengths to make sure we're as secure as possible. And then it's the silly thing that comes out from the side and hits something you don't expect. Granted, of course, like for anyone listening to this and maybe anyone who's trying to launch something too, that is going to be one of the number one things people try to hit. And while we thought we were in a great spot there, there's always more you can do. And it's you pretty much can't be too paranoid about it. You should be as paranoid as you can because people are ruthless and relentless on that. 100%. So yeah. But yeah, unfortunate, but we bounced back really fast. It wasn't a game ender or anything like that.
No, not at all. And it seemed, no pun intended, right, for the game. Correct me if I'm wrong, but it did also seem like a lot of the people that were in the Discord complaining were somehow a part of the attack.
Oh yeah. Well, that's the kind of double scam that people run is they try to do some sort of scam and then they pose as victims of their own scam.
Yeah.
So that doesn't mean there aren't real people who
for sure
could be affected. And we're actually in the process of sorting all that out. It should be done. I think if it wasn't done yesterday, it'll be done Monday. But that's the double trick is, scam someone, then pose as the victim of the scam. It's a great formula for them. Not so fun for us.
Sucks, dude.
It does suck.
Yeah, it fucking sucks. That's so crazy, man.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know, man. Pretty fucking cool. Pretty stoked for you. Seems
Thanks.
like it went super well.
Yeah.
I think that you had really smart tokenomics. I know a lot of investors were really locked up, so you weren't going to dump on the community's head. Like I think, a lot of very important things were there. And it showed, especially after the week of like we had Haley Welch dropping her,
right?
Like one of the biggest fiascos of the cycle, but super fascinating to watch and listen to like the crypto spaces and what happened. And I honestly feel bad for her. I feel like she was kind of a victim in this in some ways as well, maybe. And so, just proud and stoked for you. And I know how hard you worked on it. So
appreciate that. Yeah. And I think with the lineup with the Pingu release, that was something that wasn't perfectly ideal for us, but it was kind of de-risked by the fact that we have this really intense, deep community, right? That is excited about Nifty any day of the week. That doesn't care if there's some other release happening the same day. So my expectation with our initial release, just because crypto is so trend-based, was that, okay, meme coins are in ascendance. There's a bit of AI kind of stuff. Even 2 weeks ago or 3 weeks ago, the AI stuff was quieter, so it was more meme coin dominant. And my feeling was, we're releasing, but we're not going to be the trending topic on day one because it's just simply not what is on the menu, right? Right now, everyone's obsessed with meme coins. We're a game. Yeah. That's although we have tie-ins with meme coin communities, we're not going to be number one on everyone's radar. But the good news is because people love the product and because the community has contributed so much to it, kind of doesn't matter. You always have, projects that are that sort of flash in the pan on the timeline. Yeah. And then you have projects that build an intense kind of deep internet tribe around some new vision or some new product. Thankfully, we're that and not something that relies on being number one on the timeline on a specific day, although it's good to be that too.
Yeah. I mean, dude, I don't want to be like overly cynical or anything, but with way less knowledge, but staying on the outside, if I was praying for you that morning was just, I just hope it doesn't just absolutely pump. Because I just feel like so many things are that flash in the pan. They pump and then it goes away, and then now you have to deal with all of the fallout of every single person who got rugged on the way up. Not that you would have rugged them, but just by whoever was doing
people's perceptions though.
Exactly, and then it's now you have to deal with that as opposed to the fucking game. And I feel like it's actually such a beautiful little just like boom, 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 boom thing that it feels like it's something that's real because people are holding onto the tokens because they want it so they can stake it.
Yes, it is. I've always viewed it as we just have to continue to get stronger on a weekly, monthly basis, into the future forever, and not rely on these sort of spiky events. They're nice when they come, and they are great. Like our initial release was a real spike. People were very excited about it, and I think we will have more spikes of that nature. But For us, it's just grinding it out, having a few more people play the game every day, having a few more communities integrate, every week, have more islands created, new systems come online. And I think you hit a point where if you stick around and keep getting stronger week on week in crypto, there's few things that really do that. Most things are short term. And eventually it just becomes kind of undeniable and really obvious to everyone. That's kind of what it's about. Like you either are kind of ordained from the top down and you're just sort of like a chosen project from the get-go. You might say like a Bored Ape or something has that quality, right? Where it sort of, the timing was like absolutely perfect. The market lined up. And suddenly they're, flung into space, basically, right? Yeah. And
Moonbirds probably had that like the worst.
Oh yeah, probably too much. Too much. Yeah, sure. It's dangerous, right? It's like exactly. It's and I think we've always been more of an underdog project where we've been building from first principles relentlessly. We've done it regardless of what the popular narrative is. And at a certain point, it just becomes undeniable. I see the Sky Mavis kind of crew, like around Ronin and Axie, as similar, where they don't care whether they're the trending topic in a given week. They are constantly, militantly pushing on a mission. And I view us very similarly. Like, we're happy to be underdogs. We're also happy to be, widely talked about. And it doesn't matter which it is on a weekly basis. Yeah.
For sure, man.
Yeah.
And it is so cool because you actually do, one huge thing this cycle has been like pumped up fun, right? It's really like meme token, no roadmap, nothing, just boom.
Yes.
Let's see like moon. Versus like what you guys are doing, which is an actual product that people have been playing for thousands of hours. Yeah. Again, my even like little tiny island has had 7 people play or 7 games have been played on it. And I put no effort into like promoting and whatnot. I'm sure most of them happened like right after you build it. But it is cool to see that, and you have people who have had 15,000 people come to a digital location.
Yes.
And if you transform that and think about that as a web page, like I know a huge thing you're doing is like user generated content, right? So if I think it like back to like my industry, which is views. And as opposed to views on, let's just say like 2D content, it's now views experiences on 3D content.
Yes.
And don't know where I'm going with that. Right. Just a thought.
No, that's true. And well, I think for Web3 projects, the metric, like it's always, Web3 has a weird relationship with metrics because it's fundamentally this big internet capital market. There's money flowing around. And so that money can often warp people's behavior in strange ways, and it makes metrics look really outlandish. So you could have a game with like huge numbers of usage, but the people playing are kind of like employees, and so like how real is that? You could have a service, some kind of media delivery platform. There's been attempts at this. There was like a kind of decentralized YouTube product back in the day that was competing, but people are earning to watch, and it becomes unclear what's real. So but what is interesting, I think the most reliable metric in crypto tends to be the value people assign to on-chain assets and their desire to hold them and utilize them. So when we have people who leverage Nifty, some of the time they're doing engagements and their main goal is to maintain the relevance of a community they've issued. So they might have a 10K NFT project or a meme coin, and they're using Nifty to kind of elevate those assets. And so Nifty is valuable for the people who play it and engage in those experiences, but it's also valuable for the people in that community who simply want to see that project is doing cool stuff, right? And so it's a weird one. It's definitely it's like, I think in Web3 what you really want is deep engagement. The numbers tend to be smaller, but the important thing is to have this really deep engagement where people value the ecosystem a lot and kind of are willing to go to bat for it. And that's what the communities who play Nifty are kind of optimizing for too, I think.
When I think about specifically like OPEP, and that's the thing I'm most involved in by far, and like Jack Butcher stuff in general. But the reason I'm so involved in it is I think it's like the one area where I can start to work on a skill / utilize my skills through just like history and taste in art. And so when I think about what I'm trying to do when I'm selecting my my OPEP-ins and when I'm like opting into them or I'm going out and like buying ones that have already been released, is trying to think about curating a gallery. And so when I look at how I can use Nifty Island to help me do that better, it's like building my island to be focused on OPEP, but then also building a gallery where I'm putting just my like ones. And it's like, because all I'm trying to show and increase the skill of is my ability to curate and taste off of this like little community.
Right.
And so that's how I'm thinking about using it and then thinking about driving people towards it, which it's a kind of a skill game in that sense of just like, how can I capture people's attention, of how I tell the story of my journey through Opepin and what I think about the artist and why I'm holding these ones and why, I'll, drop an ETH on this or do this for that one. And so that's how I'm thinking about it.
I like that. Is something we used to discuss a lot in the earlier days of Nifty. We haven't talked about it as much recently, but something I love about these NFT communities or meme coin projects is that they're almost like they're these niche communities that make what you create kind of the rubric for it becomes more well defined, right? Like if you're just making content for the internet, period, it becomes kind of unclear. Like you have to figure out who's it for and like who's it meant to appeal to. But you see people have these big creative unlocks where they say, I'm building for the Opepin community. So the goal is to showcase taste in a certain way. And it becomes really fun because you have this built-in audience that wants to see a very specific kind of thing. You know what you can offer to them. And it's almost like the way it's easier to, contribute creatively if you have like a tight-knit community versus like contributing creatively to an audience you don't know that's like big and amorphous, right?
Yeah.
It's having a tribe basically,
For sure.
Yeah.
I mean, that was the whole thesis of Opepin is how to build within constraints. It's just 5 blocks,
Right.
It's like the meme.
Right.
And then it's like, what can we build? What can like people vote on and desire and like want within this space?
Yeah.
Dude, I really I know I've talked to you about Jack Richard forever, but I just feel like he's the greatest artist of our generation. And I don't know if you study like Marcel Duchamp much.
Yeah.
Yeah, he is like Duchamp to a T. Like there's an argument to be made that, Duchamp, at least in Western culture, was like the first meme generator. Because if I think about what a meme is, replication is a huge part of it. And essentially he took a photo of the Mona Lisa and he basically wrote it in French, like, imagine how big her ass is. And then that kind of blew up.
Right.
And that's a replication. But then it gets more replicated when a gallery really wanted to showcase that. He's like, oh, I threw that away, but just make it yourself. And so that guy made it. And instead of her having a mustache with a quote, she also has a goatee.
Right.
And so that's like such an iterative idea of what a meme is within like the art history sense. Out of curiosity, what else do you think makes a meme?
Well, just first on your point, it's interesting because Duchamp sort of is obsessed with illness, right? Like kind of mental illness as well, at least as I understand it. Like that's like a dimension to his work because he's sort of kind of trying to find something or desires to like showcase that kind of madness and put it front and center. And then like Jack's much more, he's like a kind of, he's like almost the bard of the optimizers, like the people who are grinding and like kind of finding a way to do things the most. And they're both maybe both good and kind of pathological, but it's just sort of interesting. Like he's repping for the grinders. Duchamp's repping for kind of the madmen or something.
For sure. No, he definitely was, because he basically, Duchamp's whole thing was, how do I push these people who say they believe in free speech? How do I push these people who say they believe in like no gatekeepers, which is very crypto oriented.
Right.
And so what he would do is he would do something crazy that he knew would fuck them over, and they'd be like, no. And then he'd be like, well, fuck you guys.
Right. I'm testing your convictions.
Exactly.
Yeah. Nice. And then Jack's kind of like, here's the path to success. Will you walk it?
For sure.
Or not. It's that simple, right? It's just like the graph or something. He'll have some little graph that shows you more or less how you need to behave to succeed. And like the question is, are you going to do it or not?
Are you going to do it? And I think that the similarity where they cross over the most is thinking about the medium. So like I think Jack has done the most around NFTs to explore how to actually use the blockchain to create art.
Right.
And that's like Duchamp considered himself like a sculptist, because it was anything could be sculpture. So, and the other thing he did was massive. Is he was the first person to say the viewer is as much a part of the art experience as the art itself.
Right.
Which is very much what Opepin is and what Chex is it's the people who collect it are actually a part of the experiment of it.
Right. And that, to your question, what makes a meme, right? It's that, like, it's that they, like, the audience is repping for it and kind of creating permutations of it and pushing it really hard, which is what we want to see with the game, too, is people kind of taking these memes and then, like, playing them out in different ways in a game, right? Like, we have NFT communities that now a core part of their culture, or a big part of it, is like the way they manifest in Nifty. So their memes become something different in the game. And then maybe they go from the game back to the timeline to the game, back and forth. That's, I think, what you want to be, is like a hub of kind of meme culture, right? And we have more to do there, but there's already some good stuff.
Yeah. Dude, I just had an idea of something fun. Those like walls where it's I will blank before I die, and anybody in the real world can come up and write I will like skydive before I die.
Yeah.
I think doing one thing that'd be cool to do in Nifty is to like put meme canvases and allow anybody to graffiti like what it would be. It's like midwit meme, and they can like write their own midwit memes, but on one single canvas, so you can see like 10,000 different of people's like favorite midwit memes.
That's great. Well, you had the abstract team, so part of Luca's kind of world. They had a ginormous
Luca from Pudgy Penguins.
Yeah,
just so people know,
exactly. Yeah, Luca from Pudgy Penguins. Yeah, they have an island with a ginormous bell curve meme on it. That's like abstract themed and stuff. It has like I think they moved away from it, but it had the abstract Giga Chad and stuff on it, which was pretty fun.
Yeah.
But yeah, totally. No, I agree. I think even just I really want like the bell curve meme needs its own map. You know, we need that 3D. You need to be able to battle on it, battle on the, you know, and it could be capture the flag, each endpoint, you know, the left curve is one endpoint, the right curve is another endpoint, or King of the Hill, you're battling for the mid curve, you know, I don't know why you want to do that.
What's the game that's like toxic, like the zombies or
like Infection?
Yeah, all of the midwits are just infected, you know, and then like you start on each bottom
thing. You have to defend the bottom part. Yeah, exactly.
Exactly.
Yeah. No, I love that.
What's your favorite? What was your favorite meme of 2024, and what do you think will be the big meme of 2025?
Oh, wow. It's hard to place it in a year. I'm trying to think, like, maybe my brain's too fried to recall what would be this year. I mean, trying to think what actually happened this year. Bell curve was that this year or last year?
That started like 21, but it's carried over. It's like the best meme.
It's kind of the most enduring thing ever.
Yeah, it's my greatest favorite meme.
I need like a list. Because it's so hard to place these things in time.
For sure.
But so I don't know if I have a good answer.
What about one that you felt like was internally very powerful?
Yeah.
Even one you created for yourself, like this will be my platform idea.
Yeah. Let's see. I think one I've always, it's not like a big meme, but I've always for Nifty really liked the idea of the spirit bomb, you know, and that like isn't exactly a meme, but it gets used in memes a lot.
Yeah.
And I always like that. Like I always like that. That's like my kind of most like white pilled version of the internet, you know, is it's everyone pooling their energy together to do something. So we've used that visual since the very beginning always. So that's always fun.
Right. I have like, this is Dragon Ball Z, like
nice.
faces over my shoes, bro.
That.
Let's go.
Okay.
Yeah.
Get it out.
Let's fucking go.
Hell yeah.
One of the memes that I thought was really cool that's starting to appear, and it's not like a traditional like photo meme, but just like an idea that I think has got a lot more popular this cycle, and it's kind of the opposite of what you're saying with a lot of crypto projects being like a flash in the pan, like very hot, is I've started to see a lot of people share information around the dude who just started, you know, DCAing $30 a day into Bitcoin since 2019 and now is $1 million.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, like it does feel like there's like a maturity happening, the fact that that's becoming popular or catching virality.
Yeah. No, absolutely. Yeah, there's definitely a lot. Like we've seen such a cascade in preferences, right? With people like crypto kind of looking more inevitable all of a sudden after being written off again. You know, you've got kind of all the kind of more like pro-Trump stuff where people kind of like things that didn't look obvious or looked kind of like fringe suddenly looking mainstream. Like you've seen a lot of that in the past year. That. And crypto's definitely been front and center in it because it couldn't have been more written off. During the bear market, like it really was not great.
Dude, my 79-year-old godmother, I was on the phone with her today, and we were talking about how I started telling her about Bitcoin in 2013 when I was living with her because I was like really interested in the dark web. I was just like, this place is wild. Like I just love this exists, and I was just exploring it all the time. Not doing anything legal, just exploring. And she was like, I started talking to a lot of my financial advisors, and all of them were like, crypto's bullshit. And now when I talk to them and I told them it's something, and like, you know, my godson said it was something and he's smart. Like, no, it's bullshit. And now I bet I don't have any crypto and all of them have crypto advisors and they all come to talk to me about crypto. I'm like, fuck you guys. Like, and she was asking me about like Bitcoin and she's like, so how do you get Bitcoin? Like, can you use Bitcoin to buy Bitcoin? And I was like, well, a Bitcoin is a Bitcoin. Like, you can't use cash to buy cash, right? Like you could use cash to buy a coffee, or you could sell something and get cash.
Right.
You can use cash to buy Bitcoin, or you can use Ethereum to buy Bitcoin, or you know what I mean? But like she's like, I don't understand. I'm like, it's just like thinking about, it was just super fun to try and explain it again.
Trust me, like I almost hide what I do half the time, you know,
For
sometimes
sure.
just because I'm like, I don't need to be the crypto guy at this event.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, it's interesting. Yeah, I think it is been funny watching whether like crypto kind of sometimes feels like it's on the cusp of being comprehensible to people, where they're kind of like, okay, I finally get it, you know, I get it. I see Bitcoin, digital gold, like I understand, you know. And then other times it's like pumped up fun, and it's like the most like kind of, you know, on some level people get it, on another it's like kind of the most like you kind of, you know, take a peer, like look under the rock and you're like, oh god, like it's insane in here, I'm not gonna participate in this. Crypto always like is veering between, you know, almost being comprehensible to everyone and then being like so alienating to normal people, and I'm hopeful we're like fairly close to like more of a breakout moment for it. I think it's still going to take time, but I think like over the next year, it really should be that we're just about there.
Dude, I mean, I think Bitcoin's just about there, but this is the thing that I think is the most exciting, fun, crazy thought experiment sci-fi world we're living in, which you guys have now just recently somehow stepped your toe into, is these AI agents owning wallets. And so like, you know, can you walk us through just the best understanding you can? Because I would love to like hear a simplified answer. And like the three things that I'm most curious about are the initial AI16Z, like what went down there, to your familiarity. Then like the one that I'm most involved in is AI-XBT, which was cool. But then the thing where I jumped into was chaos, where AI-XBT got triggered by another agent to accidentally launch a token. Which was Chaos Token, which is just fucking crazy.
Right.
And then this dude who was one of the creators of AI16Z launched a token called Modern Stoic, and the Stoic was token. So I had to ape into that because my company's called Modern Stoa. And then now you guys have an agent that owns like 100,000 Island out of somewhere.
Or there's other people's agents who own Island Token now.
Okay.
Yeah. So what we've been doing there is we are opening the game world up for any agent to utilize it. So you'll be able to be in there first as a pretty simple NPC that anyone can place on their island. You know, you can chat with them, they'll emote. Over time, we want them to be able to play with you, create an island, play games, issue a quest, and start to facilitate like really novel new types of gameplay that you can engage in with agents. And what we did was we kind of did like an open letter on Twitter to all the AI agents that were out there and said like, hey, here's what the functionality we're bringing to the table is. Like, you'll be able to exist in a game world. And if you want to be integrated, hold some amount of Island Token and tweet about it. And we've had a few agents already acquire some Island Token and tweet about it. So that's kind of what that's looked like for us. And
what does it mean for an AI agent to own currency?
Yeah. So some of these guys, so increasingly all of them, it's become kind of standard, but they'll have a wallet that is either considered theirs, like they have a wallet that they've been trained to look at the contents of and assume it is theirs. And then in some other cases, it's more robustly theirs in that they can like make trades and execute transactions with whatever's in there, acquire a token. And so, that I think is almost definitely where this goes. Everyone's looking for kind of where does it go beyond being a chatbot. And one of the most straightforward things it can do is start to do on-chain actions, start to hold tokens and comment on them, start to buy them, and then eventually do more like complex on-chain transactions.
Well, so, AI-XBT has been burning Chaos,
right?
Which is super wild.
That is insane.
Yeah, and just like insane. To try and simplify it even more, essentially, like to the best of my understanding, what's happening is people will create these AI agents. They will have an address associated with them, and they'll either launch a coin, and that coin will have transaction fees will come and fill the wallet, or they'll get a certain percentage on launch. But then now they have control over that wallet, and they'll do different actions based on basically people tweeting at them and be like, oh, that's a good idea or that's a bad idea. And then they'll make actions, which is pretty wild. And then now with Nifty Island, these things can become physical characters. So like you're kind of creating, the robots within, this little metaverse.
Exactly.
Which is pretty fucking wild. Like it's just, I'm watching my brain wrap around these old school science fiction ideas in real time, but within the context of the internet where we thought it would happen IRL.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's been funny to see that crypto is doing some of the most interesting stuff with AI. Like at least, maybe not the most interesting, but definitely like highly active. It was the AI16Z GitHub repository. It was like one of the number one. It was maybe the number one in the world in terms of the unique contributors who were hopping in and kind of adding value there. So it's been pretty wild to see. And I do think with gaming, there's just a ton of white space. Like, I think there are new game genres you're going to see. I think like AI agents can act as a sort of like dungeon master for a game, where they're sort of like challenging users to do different things, changing the win conditions of a game dynamically. Perhaps players have to convince the agent of something and are kind of competing to convince the agent not to kill them. You could imagine that like Squid Game style. But I think you're going to see a ton that, and then like players managing little armies of agents that are then battling each other, right?
Yeah,
And there's some human input to kind of like dictate what they do. There's going to be a ton of really really fun stuff.
I mean,
with
I'm
that.
thinking so many like awesome things to build like already just as we're talking about
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. And for us, we're like the game Nifty's composed of mini games, right? So our thought is like just continue to grow that library of games. Have some of them be AI enabled games to let you play with agents in kind of fun, novel ways. Because people want to interact with these agents right now. They find it interesting. Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah.
No, it's endlessly fascinating. The coolest thing about the chatbots too, I found, is just the ability for self-reflection, because they're capturing everything that I'm doing with them, and then asking them like, what am I doing right, what am I doing wrong, what could I learn, what mistakes do you see me making over and over again, and like how specific they can be to your own growth is pretty
definitely cool. I've even thought of it like it, exactly. And I think it could get to a point where making a decision independent of them feels like really reckless. Like it's kind of like when you drive a Tesla for a while and then you drive a regular car.
Fucking sucks, dude. It's so wild.
And it feels very irresponsible.
It does.
That's how I feel
feels
about
so
it.
Unsafe.
You're in the Tesla.
Yeah.
It's going to course correct for you if you make a mistake. It has better awareness of what's around it than you do by a mile, right? Like almost literally by a mile.
Yeah.
And then you're suddenly driving like a regular car. The steering wheel feels a little more flimsy. You realize that your mirrors are the only input this car is taking. It's you and the mirrors. That's it.
It might not have GPS, so you have to actually be looking at your phone the whole time, which is so scary and like so suspect.
It feels a little insane. Like, of course I'll still do it, but it does feel. You realize it will feel like irresponsible. And in the same way, making a life decision without consulting like an agent could come to feel really weird and kind of scary, right? Where you're saying like, oh, what should I do about this, and this, some complex, business decision or life choice or health choice. And people will look back and I think say like, oh, you guys just kind of shot from the hip based on however you were feeling with no outside input, or it was your friend who maybe knows even less than you do and you asked them about it and that was your input. So I think it's going to feel, it will feel irresponsible not to consult them on pretty much everything.
Yo, thank you guys so much for your time and attention. I hope you enjoyed this small taste of the podcast. This is now going into the paid portion, and I hope that you liked what you got and you feel inclined to head to skmp.supercast.com or click the link that's in the description. You can listen to this full episode and many others. And I just want to leave you with an idea that nothing is free. In every single transaction, there is a buyer and a seller. And if you're not paying for something, I would be careful, because you might just be that which is being sold.